Have you ever wondered when the best time to apply to physical therapy school is? It's easy to apply because everybody else is applying. It's easy to apply because you've been told to apply. But when is the best time for you to apply and know for sure that you'll actually get a yes from one of the schools? In a moment, I'm going to share with you exactly how to know without a shadow of a doubt whether this year or next year or the year after that is the best time for you to submit your application and know that you'll have a high chance of getting accepted. Before I dive deeper, my name is Joseph Scoogie. I'm a physical therapist, one of the co-founders of Pre-PT Grind, where we have specialized in helping students get accepted into PT school without wasting time or money. And we've been at this for about a decade now. So we've worked with tons and tons of students over the years, and we've seen pretty much almost every scenario so far. I haven't heard a new question in the last 3 years. That should tell you something. And everything that we share with you guys in these trainings and any of our master classes is because we've seen it work with the students we've worked with directly. And at this point, we've had hundreds and hundreds of clients that we've worked with, and they have collectively gotten into PT school with a 92% first-time acceptance rate, which is very high, right? And some of them had low GPAs, some of them had 4 years plus of getting rejected prior to working with us. And these strategies over time, you just start to wonder, do they just work, or is it a fluke, right? When you've had that many people that have been successful, it's obviously not a fluke. So in this episode, I want to dive into how to know when the right time to apply is, because it's very important. And the reason why it's important is because I've had a number of students that have applied just because their classmates are applying, or just because this fits their timeline for what they envisioned for their life. They're like, yeah, I knew that by this age, I wanted to make sure that I was already in PT school so that I could blank. So they don't want to go off script or off plan. And I've also seen the opposite, where students keep pushing off applying to PT school because they don't feel ready, because they're nervous. And so how do I know for sure? Because it's not just about applying. That's just part of it, right? The key is to apply and get a yes from a school, because I want to become a physical therapist. I'm not doing all this just to get into school. I'm doing all this to become a clinician, whether it's a PT or a PTA, depending on what you are aiming for. That's what I want to talk about. If I don't feel ready, should I wait another year before I apply? That's the angle that I want to address this from, so that you know how to ask the right questions and, of course, know exactly how to navigate through this thing. But before I tell you exactly how to do this, I'm going to share with you a story. We had a student a few years ago who was in our coaching program called the Accepted System. And this was a student who was struggling with this question. And when she started working with us, one of the biggest things that she had told herself was that she needed to wait another year before she applied. Now, at the time, I believe it was 2021. It was like early 2021 when she started working with us. And her plan was to apply in the summer/fall of 2022. So this is like a year and a half later was when she was going to apply, which honestly may have been a good plan. However, when you're working with our team, we get very specific. So we were looking at all the details of her situation, and we started to notice, we're like, wait, you have most of the things taken care of, and the things that are big movers that we need to adjust or work on or shift or whatnot, we can do that over the next 6 months. And she could technically have a good chance of applying that like later that year, later in 2021, instead of having to wait an extra year. So we asked her, we're like, if you don't mind us asking, why 2022? Because sometimes it's just as simple as I want a year off, I want to travel. You never know. So you ask, right? So why 2022? And the student was like, because I just don't feel like I'll be ready this year. And then we asked, why do you believe that? I just don't feel ready. I'm just nervous. And I just feel like if I had another year, I could do more stuff. And so then you ask more questions, like, what stuff? I don't know, more experiences, more. I was like, you already have pretty decent experiences, and you can dive deeper into these, and these will help you stand out already. So what else? And as I kept asking questions, as we kept digging deeper, we realized that she was just nervous. She was just scared. It's just the anxiety of what if it doesn't work out? So sometimes it's just easier to push it off to a later time just in case. And one of the first things that we showed her, we said, let's look at the facts. All right. So these are the things right now in your application that are already putting you in a great position. Here are the things in your application that have the potential to get you rejected from a school. All right. Now, the things that are still needing to be adjusted, here's the action steps to figuring them out. And we can do that over the next 6 months or less. So technically, if we do this right and we lock in from now, you have a really good chance of getting in a year earlier. And the student was like, oh, I didn't know that. I was like, yeah. So one of the things that, and feel free to write this down wherever you're at, one of the first things that we have to realize as students is that when we're making decisions, let's make decisions based off of what's actually there. instead of what we think is there. And a lot of times we let emotions, fears, excitement, pressure. So what I'm applying just because my classmates are applying, that's pressure. It's an emotion, right? But sometimes I'm letting that overtake everything. And for many of us, it's just fear that we're not good enough, fear that we're not ready, instead of asking, what's actually there? What are the facts? And what are the things that are still within my control? Right? What are the things that I can't change? What are the things that are within my control? And then what do I do about that? Because even if you find out what you need to adjust, if you don't actually have a game plan or a strategy or the resources to help you figure that out, then you'll still feel stuck. With this particular student, because she had hired our team, she had those resources, she had the support. However, we still had to base it off of what was actually there, the actual facts, so that we could say, cool, like these are things that we can do, these are things that we can adjust, and therefore we can apply a year earlier than you planned. Now, to end the story, she ended up doing just that and got accepted into PT school later that year in 2021. So she literally saved herself an entire year of having to wait until she applied, which means that she got to become a physical therapist. She was going to become a physical therapist a year earlier than she had planned on becoming a physical therapist. And it built her confidence, her certainty. It also taught her how to look at every situation based off of what's actually there, right? Because so many of us let anxiety and fear and what the worst case scenario lead the situation. It's either that or we are completely blind to everything and we're oblivious and we're just doing what everyone else is doing because we don't know where to start for ourselves. Does that make sense? And so that's the key. If I don't feel ready, should I wait another year before I apply? And the answer is, it depends on what's actually there. It depends on what the facts are. It depends on where you're at for real. Instead of following the feeling of, I don't feel ready, let's follow what's actually there. And I can tell you a ton of stories that are the exact opposite scenario from this student, where someone felt like they needed to apply right now. And then when we laid the facts out, we were like, your chances of getting accepted this year are very low because we're not even checking off the boxes of what the schools want at a base level. So how are we going to stand out when they're already going to eliminate you from their list way before they have a chance to bring you in for an interview, way before they have a chance to read your essay and understand you at a much deeper level? Does that make sense? And so that's the biggest thing. And so ask yourself, do I actually know how to assess the facts? Do I actually know how to assess what's actually there? Am I basing all of my decisions based off of, number one, the viewpoints of other people who have not been on this path before? Am I basing my decisions off of peer pressure from just trying to follow the other people that are in my class, or feeling behind because I feel behind, I'm just gonna force the agenda? Or am I making my decisions based off of what's actually there and getting guidance from people that have been through it before, so that I don't feel lost, so I don't keep guessing, so I'm not overwhelmed and confused and all the other things? Does that make sense? And those are the biggest pieces when it comes to this. And if you can make that shift, everything will change and work in your favor. So super excited for y'all. Keep crushing it. Always focus on what's there instead of what you think is there, and things will just work out. They just always do. And if you want our help, if you're like, hey, I don't know where to start, I really enjoyed this training, but I don't know where to start, then go to preptguides.com. Go to preptguides.com and we'll make sure that you're taken care of. Have an amazing rest of your day. Keep crushing it. Of course, if you enjoyed this, be sure to like, subscribe, share this with your friends or other peers that you believe would value this as well. And we'll see you on the next training. Bye.